welcome to another episode of the Ryan Holtz Show podcast. Today we have the Goldlist special. Have you coined this term yet, Jordana? Come on, man. I'm telling you.
I have. I've coined it. It's all you. It's all you, your creation, and I always attribute it to you. Goldlist special.
I like the Goldlist special. We have a really jam-packed episode for you today. But before we begin, just a quick reminder, if you've not left a review on iTunes and whatnot, please do so. We're also on YouTube, and it's actually going quite well, youtube.com/Ryan Holtz, so we're laying all of our video episodes there. I think it's extremely important, and YouTube is a massive platform. People love to consume content there. Without further ado, this episode is sponsored by JHG Criminal Law. Jordana Goldlist is the face behind this amazing criminal defense enterprise. Guns, drugs, and murder. Don't call her, and I love saying this all the time because it sounds really gnarly. Don't call her with a traffic ticket or anything, minor, quote unquote. You can message her. I'm sure she has a referral. But again, we're proud to have her on as a sponsor. Jordana, welcome home. Welcome to the show, my friend. I miss you.
Thank you, Ryan. I miss you too. It's so nice to see you again.
Yeah. So Jordana and I use these hours to chop it up and catch up and then also do a really cool episode. But all the episodes that we've done today with Jordana, I mean, it's been a lot about kind of her story and her backstory and what her crusade is and how she's came into where she is. And now moving forward, we're going to get a lot more tactical. Lawyers are extremely expensive. A lot of people do not have the resources to afford lawyers in all types of litigation. So, episodes going forward, I really want Jordana is basically going to come in and give free advice, and her time is very, very valuable. But this is going to be of great value to you. So today's topic is, oh my God, I need a lawyer. Never been in this process before. I've heard friends basically say they had to sell their home, get a second mortgage. Why all this? What is my life going to become? And Jordana's going to walk us through how to select a lawyer, how a lawyer charges, and how to keep your lawyer accountable and make sure that the lawyer is actually fighting for you. She does have a couple cases she's going to talk about, which will provide some context. So Jordana, without further ado, I got in trouble. I hope I don't get in trouble. But for people listening or have family members that, just made some mistakes, how do they go about selecting a lawyer? How does that whole process work?
So I think one of the greatest mistakes in picking a lawyer is being in a rush. I've had several clients who have come to me from having either retained or sought some sort of consult from other lawyers that were thrown at them. Parents just jumped on Google, kid gets in trouble, best criminal lawyer in Toronto. First of all, whatever comes up is a product of who pays the most in SEOs. It is not actually a product of who is the best. And quite frankly, if you're the best criminal lawyer in Toronto, you don't need to pay for those SEOs to end up at the top of the Google Ads page. And that's how they find their lawyer, and that's who they jump on. And fast forward a month or 6 months or a year down the road, and they're unbelievably unhappy. And so I often get those calls. And in fact, I got a call this morning from a father who called me crying to thank me for taking on his son's case yesterday. Son is charged with several firearms and a significant quantity of drugs. And the first thing the family, other members of the family had done was Google a local lawyer, not someone from Toronto. And this person wanted to run a bail hearing in like 24 hours without setting up a plan, without having any of the foundation you need to do things properly. And so luckily they did not move forward with that lawyer, recognized that they were just jumping in to collect their, quick money and move on to the next case. And they said, wait, let's take a look and ask around. And so he, client in custody is asking other guys in jail, hey, who does a really good job with these types of offenses, and get some feedback. And that's how he came to me. And then the family takes my name, puts it into Google, and ends up on my website where they can actually see examples of cases that I've done, the person that I am, what I'm about, to decide if that's a good fit, right? 50% is what that lawyer can do, in court, but the other 50% is still personality, right? Because every good lawyer can accomplish the same thing, right? If you're a lawyer who knows how to challenge a search warrant, then you can do that. And, there's dozens of those available. So then it's a question of who speaks to the client like a real person instead of just a paycheck. who's prepared to work with the family, where the personalities meet. And, quite frankly, my personality doesn't fit with every client, for sure. Even every client who's charged with the type of cases I do, right? And I say to clients now, the interview we do, my initial consult, goes both ways. I'm interviewing the client to see if I think I'm a good fit and he's a good fit for my practice, right? You got to work together. And you make sure that it's a relationship that can last a year and a half, sometimes 2 or 3 years, because that's the time frame for the average criminal case.
And Jordana, just to interject here, because I'm curious. I know each province has a regulating body over lawyers. Is there any regulation over fees that lawyers can charge, or is it pretty much freestyle, freelance? If you call it lawyer XYZ, they're going to have a rate. Is there kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of a unified fee structure, or does every lawyer do their fee structure differently?
Every lawyer does their fee structure differently, and every lawyer charges differently. So when it comes to fees, some lawyers charge by the hour. Some lawyers charge by the day. Some lawyers charge by, it's called a flat rate that takes you through different stages of the litigation. So for me, I charge by stage. So I have one rate for a bail hearing, and it depends on the nature of the charges and the city, because I cover most of Southern Ontario. So obviously, if I have to drive out to Niagara, I'm charging more than I would, by going across the street to the courthouse in Toronto. But otherwise, it's, I have one rate for the bail hearing, absolutely everything that I need to do to prepare for the bail hearing, so that at the end of the day, my client or their family doesn't get a bill for 100 hours that they weren't expecting if it becomes a really difficult bail hearing that I need to do some research and some background on. I just know generally by the nature of the charges and how many sureties what it's going to cost, and if it spills over, so be it. And then I have another block fee that takes through all of the initial proceedings and all of the initial stages. That for me works better, because then we don't have to necessarily keep track of the hours that have gone into going to set date court, picking up disclosure, conversations with the Crown. And for me, I don't want the client to worry if it takes the Crown 10 appearances to give me their disclosure or all the paperwork, that the client has to pay for each one, right? I don't think that's fair. I just charge one rate. It covers everything. If it takes 10 appearances, so be it. If it takes 2, so be it. The work just sort of goes. And so every lawyer has a different structure, and this is all part of finding a lawyer that has a structure that makes sense, right? Maybe you as the client want to see that hourly billing. You want to know hour by hour, minute by minute, what your lawyer has done on your case. If that's what you prefer to see, then you want to look for a lawyer who charges by the hour, right? If you want to know, listen, Jordana, I'm going to give you, X amount of dollars, just go do what you need to do to get me through to the next stage, then I'm the better fit for you, right? You're going to pay me that, and you're not going to worry about how many appearances it takes me or how many times I have to call the Crown, how many emails I have to send out. I don't charge extra for any of that. I also don't charge for client phone calls. So some lawyers will, especially if they're billing hourly, they'll start that clock as soon as they answer your call. Which means while you're on that call, you're thinking, oh my God, I got to pay for every minute this guy's talking to me. Yeah. I don't like that. I don't ever want a client to think, shit, I can't afford to call my lawyer today. Right? I think that's a horrible way to conduct a business when it comes to, someone's life, right? Like you shouldn't be worried. You need me to explain to you a step in the proceeding or what's happening on the case, or you want an update and you're like, wow, that update's going to cost me, $500. So I don't charge for client phone calls. It's all part of, the initial block fee that I charge. And that just seems to work for me and my clients. They appreciate it. And if they don't, they're other lawyers, right?
Assuming that a client is, gotten themselves in a situation, is there anything they or their supporters or family can do to be proactive in trying to maybe cut the cost of the lawyer, or making sure that by the time you get called, it's kind of makes your job a little easier up front? Or I know obviously you're like, well, if you let the cops do everything and, basically trample all over your rights, it's going to make for a lot tougher case by the time you get to it. Is there any kind of, proactiveness that people who just simply don't have the knowledge of what the process is? Because most people don't if they've never been in that situation. and, you know, human nature, I mean, panic starts to set in. So is there anything, you know, does that question make sense? Is there any, you know, is there anything that can go with that?
I mean, listen, if a person just doesn't have the resources to pay for the upfront fees of attending court, getting the disclosure, things of that nature, that's something they can do by themselves, right? And quite frankly, we're now in a situation of peril here in Ontario. Legal aid, the well has really been cut short. And so there's been a lot of cutbacks from legal aid, such that people who would have gotten a legal aid certificate to hire a lawyer on legal aid a few years ago aren't getting those certificates anymore. So there's more and more people before the criminal courts in Ontario who are self-represented. So can it be done? Yes. Should it be done? No. But for some people, it's not practical to think that they can come up with, you know, $10 or $15 or $20,000 to pay for a lawyer on their proceeding, right? For some people, it's just impossible. If you're only making $20,000 or $25,000 a year, you can't pay, you know, $10 or $15 or $20,000 to a lawyer to deal with your case. It's not possible anymore. And that's the segment of the population who are getting charged and are in a position where they're defending themselves.
Yes.
So there's the ability to do it. I certainly don't recommend it, because if you're representing yourself, you probably don't understand the nuances of the law. You don't understand your charter rights. You don't understand how to even make those arguments. It's one thing to know that your rights were violated. It's another thing to lay an evidentiary foundation and argue them in a criminal court, right? The distinction between those two is quite significant. So, you know, I think that when people find themselves facing charges, they need to pool all resources that they can, because at the end of the day, that's your life, right? That criminal record is going to follow you for at least the next 5 or 10 years, depending on the charges. And it's going to definitely have a crushing ability on finding employment, traveling, volunteer work. I mean, there's so many different aspects and different elements of someone's life that can be negatively impacted by a criminal record.
It's a known fact that society in general, like even our school system, does not really touch on legal, even in, you know, when you're going, you know, junior high school, all these things. And they don't touch on financial literacy or legal or anything like that. So you've had great authors that have written books on financial literacy, you know, to help the average person really understand finances a lot better. Is there any book or anything out there that you would suggest to somebody to say, man, go brush up on your legal or your normal rights, you know, your everyday rights? Because I feel like as an adult, you should know that. I mean, you should know when you get pulled over, basic interactions with the police, you know. When you're a parent and you have kids, my God, right? You know, my child is out there, or my son or my daughter one day is going to be out there and rolling around, and they're going to have, you know, maybe they have an interaction. My job for me as a parent is to make sure my kids know what their rights are and how to conduct themselves properly. So is there any resource that you could suggest to people who are listening?
So I don't know that there's any books out there. Most lawyers are quite self-serving and would never provide the general public with a manual to help you avoid hiring them. Yeah, right? That's a reality. Like, lawyers have created a system that actually requires them.
Okay, but Jordana,
when you think about it.
Hold on. I know you're right about this. Okay, but here, let's talk about this. This is no different than when people go into business. Like, if Ryan writes the book on how to go market your business, I give away all the stuff for free. This is a very, very scarcity mentality, right? And I would argue to any great lawyer out there that has this mentality, I wouldn't even want to hire you, because it's already showing me a little bit about your mental landscape, which I want nothing to do with, right? Go put on the cloak, get out of my cap, right? But so for you, I think that makes a great opportunity for your industry, because if I'm out there and a lawyer is literally just hammering education to me, you now are becoming an authority in many people's lives. And you are now, in my opinion, you are actually building your brand equity out even more, which you could charge more. So is this something that's legit, or is this something that is just a really bad mentality? It's pure scarcity, right? If I give you free advice, you won't hire me. Well, on the contrary, how do you build trust with me? If Jordana has educated me on, the legal system, I'll tell you right now, if I get jammed up, there's only one person I'm calling. Not because I think you're great, or, maybe we can, dig onto your emotional side and really refine that a bit. Wink, wink. But I'm gonna call you because I have a little bit of trust, and I do see you as an authority in your field. You're doing that not because of what you're not giving me; it's actually because of what you are giving me. So what do you think of that?
So, I mean, that's why, and you're on my Instagram, that's why I do these legal tips on a regular basis on Instagram, where I throw out these little, I do posts on a regular basis, and I've been doing that for years, especially around search and seizure rights, vehicle stops, which is a huge component of illegal searches. And so I do that on a regular basis. And you're absolutely right. I've had clients come to me because of those rights. Hey, I saw that post on Instagram. I'm in exactly that position. Can you help me? And I agree. And quite frankly, I'm coming from a position where I want to educate people on the trap of the criminal justice system so they can avoid it the way that I did, right? I avoided it because I recognized the trap, not because I wasn't doing the shit to get me caught up in it. I actually am working with an organization right now called Keep Six. It's a Toronto-based organization that has exactly that goal in mind: help educate young people and youth on how to deal with the police, and enlightening them on the fact that the justice system is designed to be a trap to keep people in, so that once you enter just a little bit, you don't have a system in place to help give you other opportunities or to provide you, a framework with which to make better choices. Instead, you get stuck on probation, which is a system of monitoring people and ensuring they stay in the system. So me and Richard Miller, who's the founder of Keep Six, we've been reaching out to different high schools in hopes of having that platform to teach young people about what their rights are and how to avoid the system altogether. Because if you don't enter it as a youth, you're more likely to stay out of it as an adult.
I googled Richard too because I seen it on your Instagram, and what a story! He's got a crazy story. Yeah,
he does. He does. And if you meet him now, he is a phenomenal human being that has spent the last 3 years putting his own money, his time on top of working a full-time job, sometimes 6 or 7 days a week in construction. So really hard work.
Yeah.
And he just wants to help give back and help people not make the same bad choices that he made, time and time again. And he really saw a system that was developed in order to keep, some of the most vulnerable members of society stuck in a horrible place. So he's really doing great work, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to help out with some of his projects and really help, move his foundation in a forward direction. He's really got a great program going on.
So circling back, people who
Yes.
is there a resource or resources plural that somebody can go just to educate themselves? Because we know you are an amazing lawyer and you're never gonna have a shortage of clients. And this is a classic case. You can lead somebody to water, right? You can lead the horse or camel or whatever the heck country you come from to whatever analogy you want to use. But you can lead them to water, but doesn't mean that they're gonna drink the water. You know what I mean?
Right.
So is there resources? Because I ask myself this too. I'm like, well, I want to get educated.
So no, there's no simple resources. I mean, the basis of, knowing, understanding the law is reading the law, right? You really want to know your charter rights, read the damn charter. It's It's there, it's online. If you Google, Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, you will now have the blueprint for all of your rights and all of your responsibilities within society. And there's a very small section dealing with, your criminal rights, right? It's not a lengthy text that you would have to go through. It's all there. The question is one of interpretation, right? How does that actually apply? It's one thing to say that the Charter of Rights guarantees me from being, unreasonably searched and seized. So, okay, so I have this guaranteed right to not be subjected to unreasonable search and seizure. What does that actually mean? What is an unreasonable search? What is an unreasonable seizure? The average person would not recognize that if you're the passenger of a vehicle that's stopped for a highway traffic act and the police ask for your ID, that's an unreasonable, illegal seizure. It's a seizure of your identity that they now use to check in their database to see whether or not you've got any outstanding charges, warrants, violating a bail, violating probation. It's actually considered illegal if you're just a passenger who's doing absolutely nothing wrong and there's nothing illegal about the car, for example, it being stolen. So most people wouldn't be able to discern that from just reading the charter and thinking about everyday life. And that's why it's important to be able to have, either a lawyer that you can talk to, or, we're trying to develop these workshops, perhaps maybe a small book or a pamphlet to give to kids in school. I remember when I was a kid in school and I got a pamphlet about different drugs and what the drugs were, how to identify them, and, what they can do to you. Like, it was part of an educational workshop to try to just say no to drugs. I never got a pamphlet about what my legal rights were. I never got a pamphlet about my responsibilities as a Canadian citizen. What does that mean? How do I deal with the police? How not to? So you're right. It's not something we give to people. The same way we don't teach them about financial literacy. Half the people that I meet, including adults who are working and have debt, don't appreciate what it means to be charged interest on a credit card. Like something so basic.
Yeah.
People aren't taught that.
Yeah. Okay, but here, it's so true. Now, if we go back and we look at the resources that are out there, you're talking about pamphlets, workshops, and books, right? Now, if we go on TikTok, TikTok's got that young demographic. No kid who's in between the ages of 11 and 16, 17 years old is gonna go read no damn pamphlet, right? Like, when somebody hands me, even to this day, a trifold pamphlet, it tells me that either you're dated, you're whack, or you just went and ordered it on like some cheap website, and got it for a cent. Right. Now, here's my point. You have your website. Man, you could make your website the resource portal, right? A blog, a quick video. But then again, we talk about context and interpretation. When Jordana gets up there and starts saying all these fancy legal words, I want to be indemnified and all these things, right? The average person doesn't even understand the vernacular or the vocabulary behind that, right? So for you have the opportunity to use the internet to spread out to a lot more people than any workshop or pamphlet or book would ever provide. And it's interesting because before we did this episode, I spent, kind of a little bit of time just kind of Googling lawyers in Canada, lawyers in Alberta, in Ontario, just to see kind of what the landscape is. And it's amazing how, I must have hit up 40 websites. Some of them, we won't talk about that because the marketing guy in me comes in and says, holy crap, this guy's charging $40 and he can't even afford a proper website. Anyways, but there was barely any education. There was nobody saying, hey, I want to educate you on what I'm going to charge you for. And, that to me is just a sure bet that I'm like, okay, well, all the lawyers are trying to keep this, education, this little, I call it the scarcity mentality, all tucked into the legal system, right? Because there's a lot of money changing hands there. So for you could create that resource and you could do it at scale. You could do it at scale.
So, we have to be careful, right? Because I can't teach people how to better commit crimes, right? There's laws and rules in place. So I can't set up, here's how to avoid the police type of video, which is really what my clients would want from me. I'm, legally obligated to not do such things. I can't tell you how to properly get rid of the body. These are the types of questions that my clients would ordinarily pose to me that they would see value in, which would, of course, avoid them having to retain me. So it's not that I'm not prepared, to divulge industry secrets. It's I'm legally obligated to not counsel people on how to commit criminal offenses.
For every RCMP law enforcement agency now listening to this podcast because they've heard this little clip, this is by no means, she is saying this on her own free will.
I know, no. But it's true. There's certain legal tips that just can't be provided and won't be provided because we as lawyers are obligated to not give that type of information.
Absolutely.
In addition, assessing people's cases is literally on a case-by-case basis, right? It's like doctors. Until we actually review the disclosure in the Crown's case and take a look at the search warrant and the police notes, I can't really tell you how to deal with your case, right? Everyone's different. Even if I have, 1,000 people that call me and say, hey, police raided my house, they found guns, they found drugs, what am I supposed to do? Until I actually see the search warrant, which purported to give the police the authority to enter that house, I have no idea. I literally have to review all 1,000 search warrants separately to understand if the police were justified in entering the house. So as much as I can give, generalities about what you can and cannot provide to police or should not provide to police as the passenger in a vehicle that stops, that's sort of the end of the lesson, right? Like, I can do different scenarios to describe what your rights are, but to suggest that I can actually tell you how to challenge a search warrant, each one is different. All the facts are different. The investigation is different. Sometimes the police investigate for a day. Sometimes they investigate for a year, 2 years, 3 years if it's a, huge project.
Yeah.
And so being able to analyze that case is like, I can't tell you how to treat your stomach ache, right? Like, if someone's constantly, dizzy, you can't Google. Well, you can Google what this is, but you probably shouldn't rely on that. You should go see your damn doctor, right? Like, they need to do some blood work and they need to figure out what's really going on. So I use Instagram to try to provide those generalities so that people understand that they do have rights and responsibilities when in society, when dealing with the police, but to be able to analyze someone's case actually requires sitting down with that person and their disclosure, their actual case. When I say disclosure is everything the Crown will rely on to prove the case. Yes. So statements from witnesses, statements from police, search warrants if applicable, and the police have resources at their disposal that people don't understand. They can now get warrants.
Is the disclosure related to the discovery, or is the discovery based on the evidence?
No. You don't have discoveries in the criminal process. Okay. It's a preliminary hearing. Sometimes we call them discoveries if there's no judge sitting, but discoveries are for civil litigation.
Yeah, but what do you call the term though when the prosecution has to give you the evidence that's stacked against your client in order to make a defense? Or am I saying that right?
So no. So right away. So the process, so sort of the anatomy of every criminal case is someone gets arrested, then they're entitled to judicial interim release, what we often call bail. This often happens at the beginning of the case, but perhaps you want to wait a little bit just to be able to assess the case. And the disclosure process is something that's ongoing throughout the entire litigation, but you can't assess it until you can't assess the case until you properly have disclosure. So the first, 3 or 5 or 10 or sometimes 15 times that someone goes to court, those appearances are just to get the disclosure. And so the Crown is obligated to provide everything they're going to rely on. Everything. And it's a one-way street. So the defense doesn't have to provide anything. We don't have to tell you what the defense is. We don't have to tell you who our witnesses is. The only time we have to show our hands is if there's an alibi. And so if there's an alibi evidence, we have to provide that to the Crown sort of as soon as possible is generally preferred, but definitely at the beginning of the case so that they can investigate whether there is a genuine alibi. And if there is a genuine alibi, quite frankly, you don't want to sit on that, right? If you come to me and you're like, Jordana, I'm charged with this murder that supposedly happened in Alberta, but that night, I swear I was at my home in Vancouver, and there's surveillance video that proves that, the first thing I want to do is get that surveillance video and give it to the Crown and be like, listen, man, you got the wrong guy. Let this dude out of jail. It's not this person.
He was TikToking on the mountainside, I swear to God.
That's it, man. Here you go.
You know what, though? It's interesting because you look at it. Is there any common personality traits amongst criminal defense lawyers that you feel like are good? Like, every time I talk to a cop or, I know cops, distant friends, family, whatever, I always ask them, I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, don't you have to become a wolf to kind of catch a wolf? And so it's so funny because the answers all vary, right? They try to do the whole no, it's very separate. I'm like, come on, man. There's some human nature here. How the hell are you gonna go and catch this wolf if you can't think or act like a wolf? I mean, and if that wolf comes back at you, there's gonna be some sort of bad things. Do you feel like, you defending these types of people? Because we even talked about it. A lot of people ask a criminal defense lawyer, like, hey, how do you defend these kind of people? How do you sleep at night? All these things, right? I even wonder, I'm like, what does she do during the day? Like, she just looks at blood splatter analysis and then kind of goes and has like a salad and then comes back and then, what? Like,
I don't stop eating my salad to examine my blood splatter.
Yeah. So
I'm fine with it.
Yeah. So is that just because it's weird to the average person? Like, how do you do that? Is that, you come from kind of a different background where you've seen those kinds of things prior to being a lawyer, but even some of your peers where they, you talk about all the time, they come from great families and stuff. Does that change a person, you think, when they start seeing those kinds of things? Or is that where that guard and that kind of balance starts to really kick in?
So there is a full range of personality within the criminal defense bar, within criminal lawyers, period, right? You have every type of personality doing all different types of work. I know lawyers that are unbelievably patient and compassionate and kind. And generally, their practice reflects their personality. Oftentimes, when you have criminal lawyers who are able to be patient and compassionate, they're often dealing with clients with serious mental health issues because they need that patience, that compassion, someone who will explain things over and over again. That is not me. That is not my personality at all. And as a result, my practice, I have very, very few clients with severe mental health issues because I don't have the patience and the time to dedicate to them, and it does a disservice to them. And I mean that honestly. I think that people who are suffering from mental health issues deserve to have someone with that level of compassion and patience that I don't possess.
This doesn't shock me, though, Jordana. It doesn't shock me at all.
I know it doesn't.
I'm not surprised by this fact at all.
I'm brutally honest. And that turns some clients off because if I think your case is horrific, I'm still prepared to fight it, but I'm going to be honest. And some people don't want to hear that. Some people want a lawyer that tells them, no, we're going to win this 100%, I promise. Any lawyer that makes promises of a result is a liar. That's like number one rule. If you have a lawyer who's going to promise you a result in court before they even know who the judge is, your lawyer is a liar. It's not possible to guarantee a result. The case completely hinges on the disclosure, the witnesses, the testimony in court, the judge you draw, and quite frankly, it is often the case that some laws are overturned overnight. So you don't know what the appellate courts are going to do with a specific set of facts on any given day. And so I tell clients whether or not I think they have a good defense, whether they have a bad defense, strengths and weaknesses, what I think we should do, what we can do. But to guarantee a result, to promise them a win, to promise them anything, no, your lawyer is lying to you for sure. You can't make those promises. Yes. So I think that's part of the interview process in finding a lawyer, right? Like our theme for the conversation is how to find the right lawyer. Go on their website. As you saw from your survey this morning of the 40 different websites, or 50, whatever you looked at, every lawyer has a different website, a different look to it, a different color. If you jump on my website, you're seeing black and red, and you're seeing access to my podcast, access to my TEDx talks. You're going to see a page that lists my philosophy. Read it. If you like it, call me for a consult. If you don't like it and don't agree with my position, if you don't want a lawyer that's, straight up impatient, but does a really good job because I know what I'm doing with the type of cases that I do. If that's what you want, give me a call and come in. But if you don't want a lawyer that's gonna sometimes swear and have tattoos and come to the office in jeans and a t-shirt, you're hiring the wrong person, right? You will not see me in the office in a suit. It's just not happening. I go home after court from wearing my suit. The first thing I do, jeans and t-shirt, I'm in the office. Maybe I've got a blazer on if I'm meeting someone for the first time. Maybe, sometimes not. But that's just who I am. And some people want a different personality, and I'm okay with that. Because if you don't want someone with my personality, then I don't want to represent you. There's enough clients out there to go around that I think that, as lawyers, we do a disservice when we try to dumb down our personalities in order to fit that boring lawyer mold. Jeez. I'm just at a point where it's like, this is me, take it or leave it. And this is my